Well, hello there and good morning. It is Wednesday, the 17th of August, and I am Karen Bondar and I like facts. Today is the second live stream in my new live streaming career. And I have some stories that really, got under my skin a little bit this week. And so, yeah, here is my chance and my opportunity to talk about those. The first thing that I would really like to bring up this week and is probably on the minds of many people, especially women across Canada, is is the fact that one of, or if not the premier female journalist in Canada, Lisa Laflamme, was somehow mysteriously or just abruptly let go from her position as the anchor of the nightly newscast at CTV. And Laflamme is 58. She is not, super old. 58 is very young. She is at the height of her career. She actually said, I've got a quote here from the video that she posted on her website. She said, "At 58, I thought I would have more time to tell more of the stories that impact our daily lives as I have done for many decades." Yeah. So what is going on here? People are asking questions. I am one of those people. LaFlamme worked for CTV News for 35 years. And I mean, those of us, or those of you, I guess, that have careers, seniority, pensions, benefits, protection. What the heck? How can somebody who is at the helm of a nightly newscast just simply be fired like that? Wow, oh, that just floors me. But as someone who also works in media, I understand that we work on contract, and those contracts are specifically designed to give all the power to networks and to give no power to individuals. It is what it is. It is part of that. I kind of call it. It's all part of colonialism, but it's part of one of those. A system that is not set up for the individual to win. Now, this is something interesting. During the pandemic, we just came through the pandemic. I mean, we're still in it in a lot of ways. During the pandemic, like many other women, this is a news article that I pulled, actually just an opinion piece that I pulled from the Globe and Mail. Lisa Laflamme, decided to embrace her gray hair. Many of us, or I guess I haven't yet, but many women did decide to do this during the pandemic because of the fact that it was really difficult to get into salons and blah, blah. Things were closed. And so Laflamme actually allowed her, what people are now calling, her gorgeous silver hair to come through during that time. So, and this is a quote from Angela Misri, who is an assistant professor at Toronto Metropolitan University and also a former CBC reporter. She said, when Lisa made the choice to retain her beautiful white gray hair, I thought, oh, this is going to mark her. This often marks women of a certain age and a certain look, and I worried for her in that case. But then I was encouraged also to see a woman expressing her actual age on the screen and still holding one of the highest positions. I think we need more people like her on the air. Again, those are quotes from Angela Misri, who is a former CBC reporter and Toronto Metropolitan University assistant professor. And essentially, she's saying what women kind of already know, but that we like to hope maybe isn't true. But the fact of the matter is this: Lisa Laflamme allowed her beautiful silver hair to come out during the pandemic. And then the following year, she is suddenly met with the end of her contract. A couple more facts here. She took on that anchor role all the way back in 2011. Okay, so she has been doing this for 11 years. And she has also won many on-screen awards in Canada for her reporting, as well as being given the Order of Canada in 2019. That's about one of the most prestigious things that somebody can be awarded, the Order of Canada. So this woman is a highly distinguished journalist and professional. And yet She does not seem to have any power here to be able to retain her position. Now, the optics of this are not good. Obviously, women and men and people across the country are right angry about this. I was on Twitter yesterday. I mean, I'm on Twitter most days, as we are. And it turns out that there's the one individual responsible. I mean, obviously it's a conglomerate, but the individual manager of this position is a fellow by the name of Michael Melling. Young man, and by the way, his email is michael.melling, MELLING @bellmedia.ca. Apparently, this is the fella that had the beef with Lisa LaFlamme. They got into disagreements about coverage of the war in Ukraine. At least that's what some of the reports are saying. And it seems like he just kind of has tried to pull the plug by, taking, I don't know, this dominant role over her. Now, another Bell Media executive, Karine Moses, described Lisa LaFlamme as a trusted broadcaster, distinguished voice in Canadian news, who's been on the front lines of the world's biggest headlines. She says, with an unfailing commitment to delivering stories that matter to Canadians, Lisa has deftly guided viewers through both turbulent times and celebration. And we wish her nothing but the best as she begins a new chapter. Aw, wasn't that sweet, Karine Moses? How about just let's go ahead and finish off this chapter so we all understand what it is that she did or didn't do to get the boot. This morning, there's a couple of headlines coming out that show that ratings of Lisa LaFlamme's CTV newscast is one of Canada's most popular. So not only is she a kick-ass woman, an excellent journalist, she is one of the top producers. So excuse me, Mr. Michael Melling, michael.melling @bellmedia.ca. Confusion, outrage, you better believe it. How can one of the matriarchs of Canadian media simply be let go? And not just that, but how can we all? I mean, I'm certainly not sitting down and and standing for it. I want to share with you another article here that I came up or that I found. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. I'm never super good at sharing my screen, but I am. Yeah, here we go. So this is an interesting one, and this is only from a couple of years ago. All right. So this is from the New York Times, and this is from the end of December in the year 2020. And here we go. 5 anchor women leave New York One after settling a discrimination suit. So these 5 women had exactly the same beef, the same issue. You can see here in this image, these are all women who are prominent journalists at the time who are getting up there in age. And quite frankly, hello, I see us 5 badass women here. So anyway, the anchors who sued NY1 last year, Janine Ramirez, Vivian Lee, Kristen Shaughnessy, Roma Torre, and Amanda Farinacci. So let's see. And I guess Roma Torre was one of the leading personalities there. They're leaving the news channel after settling an age and gender discrimination lawsuit against the beloved media institution. This is an interesting quote. After engaging in a lengthy dialogue with New York One, we believe it is in everyone's interest, ours, New York One's, and our viewers, that this litigation be resolved, and we have mutually agreed to part ways. The terms of the settlement were not disclosed. Very interesting. And if you are interested in the details on that story, you can go ahead and find the link. But, it's not like this is a new thing. It's not like this is something that just started happening. Why do women lose relevance at the peak of their careers? Could it be because men or conglomerates become extremely threatened by powerful women? I mean, I suspect that must be the case, because what the hell is the reason otherwise. Lloyd Robertson, one of the last CTV News anchors, stayed in that anchor chair till he was 77. Okay. Lisa LaFlamme is nearly 20 years younger than that. She's 19 years younger than that. What the heck? What else did I want to say about this? Oh, I wanted to say that so far the plan to replace Lisa LaFlamme is with a journalist called Omar. And Omar is kind of in a really, really tricky position here. He is known as a respected and good, thorough journalist. But how does one, comfortably slide into this spot when it has been vacated in such a crappy way? So I do think about Omar, and then this is a really tricky one. How is he supposed to come out on a winner here? I'm not entirely sure. Not mad at Omar, but I certainly do not like the way in which this went down. Okay, I guess that's all that I wanted to say about that particular story. So story number 1 for this week. Story number 2 for this week. Another thing that caught my eyes. Again, we are going to sexual assault in the church. We have a prominent cardinal in Canada who was named in a sexual lawsuit against the Archdiocese of Quebec. So this is Cardinal Marc Ouellette, Archbishop of Quebec, when the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was taking place. He is among 88 members of clergy who are facing allegations of sexual assault. It is the first time that Ouellette's name has appeared in it, but that's a huge number. 88 clergy are being named in this class action suit. This lawsuit actually represents more than 100 victims. I actually have, documents tabled in the court contained detailed accusations against clergy, including Ouellette, over 100 of them that were sexually assaulted. Most of them were minors at this time. They were assaulted by priests and other staff working in the Archdiocese since 1940. So, interestingly enough, this is being covered by the Montreal-based law firm Arsenault, Dufresne and We. And the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Quebec said in a statement on Tuesday that it was aware of the allegations, but it declined to comment. That it was aware of the allegations, but declined to comment. Wow. Okay, there's a second lawsuit that's also going on, and this is against the Brothers of the Christian Schools of Francophone Canada. In this lawsuit, there are 193 alleged victims and 116 members that have been accused. Wow. These are big numbers, but honestly, these numbers are everywhere like this. And I mean, as a biologist, I will just say something pretty darn straightforward. And that is, we are members of the animal kingdom. We are alive, living beings that exist and reproduce to make more of us. That's what alive things do. And we evolved to do that. Survive, reproduce. That's kind of like biology in a nutshell there. Now, when you take that reproduction part and you go, you know what? No, we're humans. We've decided that, in our, higher, I guess, echelons of religious study and whatever, there is no sex. These people are above sex. There are, to be honest, I'm not super familiar with it. All I know is that there's no sex. And that's the problem, you guys. That's the problem. You can't take the sex out of a human. It's impossible, because that's what we are here on this planet to do. Okay. Reproduction is what animals do, other than surviving. So when we pointedly take sex out of the equation on one level, okay, as many priests or, various clergy members do, it will come out elsewhere. Okay, humans can't exist without sex in their lives. So if there's these rules that priests and clergy have to follow, and there are, those rules prevent them from having, sort of healthy and normal biological sexual encounters. So what do? They prey on young people who cannot defend themselves, and they get the sex that way. Um, this is just so wrong. Humans don't exist without the part of us that is sex. I mean, we all came out of our moms, bodies. That's how we were created, and that's just sort of the basics of life. So I really struggle with this one. I really struggle with the continued we know this. We have all the answers to this. We understand that when humans, suppress urges and just sexuality, period, we understand that that can take on some pretty negative dynamics and lead to sexual trauma for those that become the victims of individuals who were starved from sex in the first place. This just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in terms of biology. And since I'm a biologist, that's my 2 cents on that one. I am going to move on now. I don't want to, there's a lot of information there. There's a lot of people involved in this one, and I'm glad that this is moving forward as an actual class action lawsuit at this point. I did talk last week in my first live stream about the Pope's visit here to Canada and how there were some apologies. There were, what do we think about this? I mean, were people happy? Were people not happy? I mean, but the fact that they continue to just simply not comment, like what? You can't comment, because really the only possible thing you could comment and say is, we acknowledge this is wrong. This is bad. Priests shouldn't be raping children. The end. Full stop. Okay? That's bad. And when you take sex out of people like they do in the Vatican, that's wrong. Okay. I know I'm repeating myself. Okay, story number 3. We're going on to another great news story, because humans are amazing. Sunken fishing boat, unfortunately, just off the coast of San Juan Island, which is the USA equivalent of our Gulf Island. So San Juan Island is one of the larger Gulf Islands. Just off of San Juan Island, a fishing boat with nearly 10,000 liters of oil and diesel on board of it went down in the Salish Sea. I believe this was about 2 days ago. I think it happened on Monday. Crews are continuing to work to drain this fuel out because of the weight of the natural gas. That this was the kind of fuel that was on there. It is virtually impossible to skim it off the surface, as we might do with petroleum or oil. This natural gas will not work that way. Let's see. This was a fifth, blah, 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 blah. No, it wasn't. This spill fouls a key feeding ground. Doesn't it always, though? Doesn't it always? I mean, is there no non-key places in the ocean? Let's get real, humans. Like, it's as though we're saying, oh yeah, we can destroy all that place, but we can't destroy this one place. Ugh, dumb. But anyway, key feeding ground for endangered southern resident killer whales, or orcas. Orcas are incredibly long-lived creatures. These are, it says, the southern residents. So that means they maintain the same location. They reside in the same location year to year. They, although they will certainly have huge stomping grounds within that general vicinity. The offshores and the transients are other kinds of groups of orcas that have other migratory patterns. Now, so these residents are always living here, hence the bigger challenge to their health with this oil spill directly in their, in their food. Hi, wait, isn't it great that humanity can just sort of take a big plate of food and dump a bunch of oil on it and expect orcas to eat it and be just fine. So Peter Ross, who is a senior scientist with Raincoast and an excellent scientist, by the way, said that this spill really happened in pretty much the worst place possible for the southern residents. The stretch of Harrow Strait here, where the fishing boat sank, is actually a protected, it's a marine protected area anyway. So humanity just added 10,000 liters of gas to an MPA, or a marine protected area. There are 74 remaining whales in this group, okay, and potentially fewer after this point. It depends on the health level. Certainly, the oldest individuals would be at the most risk, which is unfortunate because the oldest individuals, and usually in an orca pod, the oldest individual is grandma. This is a matriarchal society, and grandma is at the helm. And because these females or these adults can become up to 100 years old, even some of them are extremely long lived. What this means is that a lot of these pollutants can bioaccumulate in their tissues. Year after year, they are subjected to toxins, pollutants in their environments. A lot of these are fat soluble. So what they'll do is they will just hang out in the tissues of the whale. And eventually the toxicity levels within the individual whales become just too much for that individual whale to manage, and they die. Say exactly what we'll be looking at with respect to the 74 southern residents that are in this population. Certainly scientists will be monitoring that. On Monday night, about 640 meters of boom, which is sort of, just things that float on the surface to try and bring that oil in, have been laid. But again, just because of the nature in its latest release, the Coast Guard said that drones were also being used to monitor the sheen, watch for any marine mammal movement. The orcas might return to that area. The oil spills are directly toxic. They cause skin irritations. They can actually cause impairments in breathing. And so this is going to be a situation that scientists are going to have to be monitoring for a while. But it speaks to a larger issue, which is that, why is there a fishing boat with 10,000 liters of oil or natural gas, just off the coast? Why do we have to have that much? Where were they going? Is this necessary? Why do we continue to show such disrespect to the oceans? And interestingly, just today, literally today, in the United Nations, they are literally trying to jam out a high seas treaty. And this would actually create legally binding agreements that would protect open oceans. And this actually, what they're talking about at the UN today is behind 200 nautical miles from shore or from each nation's jurisdiction. But even still, the fact that the UN initiative to have an oceans treaty is going on today, I felt like that was, kind of an interesting coincidence. I'm just going to share my screen on that one because this is kind of an interesting thing to show. We have tried to do this. The UN has tried to do this many times before. Let's see here. Here we go. And this is actually from, where am I from here again? This is by Juan Hernandez at the New York Times. We also can see just this top statement here. UN leaders have been attempting to establish an international high seas treaty for years. They've come up empty-handed 5 times already. So let's hope that 6 is the charm. But I think, in reading this paper, there was quite a bit of argument just that suggested, we have to protect the waters, but then who's going to want to do this? Because what it's going to mean is that we stop essentially taking all of the resources out of the ocean and using them for our personal gain. And, by country, this country wants access to these fish, this country wants access to these, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, what that means at the end of the day is that the environment kind of takes the backseat because we're all clamoring to get our piece of the pie and our part of the resource there. But honestly, when there's no resources left, I guess that's the problem. That's when we're going to actually have to change our tactics. And I mean, I feel like the climate has changed so much, the ocean has changed so much. We got to be getting to kind of that critical time where people are like, wow, things are quite not what they used to be. Hey, thank you from I agree, ambulocetus. We should have gotten away from petroleum decades ago. What the heck? And we have the technology. Technology exists. This is what I don't understand about humanity, or maybe no, I do understand it, and I'm just reluctant to say it. We could solve all of this. Hydrogen, solar, wind power, tidal power, and hydro, what we rely on here in British Columbia. We have all of the answers. We could easily power everything without using any fossil fuels, none at all. And what that would take is a transition. And so a lot of people working in oil and gas would have to transition over to working jobs in the renewable sector. But it's possible. Why don't we do it? Oh God, don't even get me started. Why don't we do it? We don't do it because of politics, because of patriarchy, because of colonialism, you guys. It's so sad. That's why I made a show. So I can just say things like that out loud. Blah. Okay, that was my third story, but it's kind of going into my fourth story because the last thing I really wanted to focus in on that was the orcas. I mean, not only are they an incredibly important species in the ecosystem in general, but they are also incredibly important to Indigenous peoples. They are spiritually important. They are biologically important. They are philosophically important. And this is yet again another smack in the face to the folks who were here, who are being stewards of the land and taking care of the land prior to colonists arriving. Now, here is something that I also wanted to mention on that really briefly, because an apology happened this week, and it was to an Indigenous woman. This was Sasheen Littlefeather, and I'm going to share my screen again. This is a very cool story, and I am happy. I'm going to end us sort of on a little bit of a positive note. This is an apology that came to Sasheen Littlefeather. Here we go. All the way from when she made an appearance at the Oscars in 1973. You can see that image of her much younger there at the Oscars. And there she is in 2019 at the Red Film Festival. So in 1973, Marlon Brando won the Best Actor Oscar for The Godfather. He wasn't around. I don't exactly know where he was, but obviously he was woke before woke was a thing, because he made personal arrangements with, Sasheen Littlefeather, and others in her Indigenous group, and she gave his acceptance speech. So this woman, wow, can you imagine that? 1973, okay, this young Indigenous woman gets up on stage at the Oscars and she gives a speech, a short speech. You should watch it. It is available to watch on many news outlets. And it's very quick. She doesn't take too much time, but she simply says, Marlon Brando cannot accept this Oscar because of the inappropriate portrayal and treatment of Indigenous peoples by the film industry. She got booed. She got heckled. I mean, she was subject to a lot of, harassment and abuse because of this. But what a strong woman, and how, before her time was that. Now, the apology, I just want to look at this apology because it was quite a meaningful, a meaningful apology. Like, I actually was quite delighted at reading some of this. It was a statement from David Rubin, who is the current Academy president. That's the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. And he says, the abuse you endured because of this statement was unwarranted and unjustified. The emotional burden you have lived through and the cost to your own career and our industry are irreparable. For too long, the courage you showed, why did that go? The courage you showed has been unacknowledged. For this, we offer both our deepest apologies and our sincere admiration. Isn't that something? She has made a statement. And this, let's see, what did her statement? A delightful statement. I'm going to read it for you now. Regarding the Academy's apology to me, we Indians are very patient people. It's only been 50 years. We need to keep our sense of humor about this at all times. It's our method of survival, said Littlefeather. I never thought I'd live to see the day for this program to take place, featuring such wonderful native performers as Bird Running Water, a television and film producer who guided the Sundance Institute's commitment to Indigenous filmmakers for 20 years through the Institute's labs and Sundance Film Festival. This is because, sorry, I should have mentioned that previously, there is going to be a showing of a film in honor of Sacheen Littlefeather that will be coming up. She says, "This is a dream come true. It is profoundly heartening to see how much has changed since I did not accept the Academy Award 50 years ago. I am so proud of each and every person who will appear on stage." And that is for a concert that will be happening in the fall to honor her, and how absolutely wonderful. And I wanted to finish up today's live stream by just going on with numbers 3 and 4. We talked about, oh, I didn't bring my copy of it, the 21 things you need to know about the Indian Act. Just going to keep going on those during my live stream so that we go through all 21 of them. They're really important to know because this is current. It's current. Why is it still like that? So, okay. So number 3 is that we created reserves. So the Indian Act created reserves and then essentially corralled Indigenous people onto them. The reserves, and this was started in 1876 by the Canadian government, reserves were regarded as places for Indians to reside until they became civilized. Once the proper life skills had been learned, they got the opportunity. They got the opportunity to become enfranchised or released into society. Wow, gosh, I can't even believe I can read these words. So the definition of the reserve is a piece of property or land reserved for exclusive use of an Indian band, trying to sort of make it sound like this was a good thing in some way. They were like corrals for Indigenous people to be kept upon while European colonizers had free access to all of the resources on the lands. Recall that when in number 1 and number 2, in last week's discussion when we talked about the doctrine of discovery from the Catholic Church, which basically said you can discover any land as long as there's not currently a Christian on it. If there's an Indian on it, no problem. You just go ahead and take it. That was what the doctrine of discovery suggested. So remember, we're dealing with that as well. So under, John A. Macdonald, the first PM of Canada, there were 2 goals. Number 1, lure more colonizers to Canada, and number 2, build the railway. So how do you lure more colonizers in? You promise them land. What do you do when there's already people on that land? You make reserves. So that is number 3. Still in the Indian Act, you guys. It is current. I can't believe that I still can say this. Now, the number 4 is voluntary or enforced enfranchisement. Recall that enfranchisement is when an Indigenous person gets to accept Westernized principles and they get to be enfranchised. Woohoo! What a weird, strange concept to introduce. This essentially meant the loss of status rights. Enfranchisement is the loss of status rights. And the purpose of enfranchisement was clearly to assimilate Indigenous peoples. It was basically like, we've got to deal with this issue over here, this problem of these folks that exist here. We'll just assimilate them. We'll make them into us, and we'll just erase their culture. Basically, to become enfranchised or to become a British subject, individuals would shed the confines of the Indian Act. So then, here's the deal, guys. If you become enfranchised, you don't have to worry about all the issues that govern you over here in the Indian Act. You can become enfranchised and just forget that you're an Indian altogether. How about that? Essentially, the Gradual Civilization Act did something similar and was vehemently opposed by Indigenous leaders. So that's the numbers 3 and 4, created reserves, and then there was either voluntary or enforced enfranchisement, where basically Indigenous folks were, either given the opportunity to totally become non-Indigenous, or they were just forced to become non-Indigenous, period. And so this is I know I'm a broken record, you guys, but this is current in the Indian Act. So, hey, Sook. Hello, Sook. Hello, Ambulocetus again. And hello, Omnivore One. I really thank you for your comments. And that brings me to the end of my very second. It's my very second. Next week, it's going to be my third. I will see you guys next Wednesday. Thank you for listening. And please share any comments or thoughts that you have. I'm kind of enjoying myself doing these fun things. And it wouldn't be nearly as fun without you guys watching. So thank you. Thanks for that. And I will look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.